as well as cases that involve issues that affect us all. Schwartz's Law presents legal solutions and legal overviews. Schwartz's Law interviews the headline makers and gives you a close-up look at today's controversial topics. Enter Michael Schwartz's courtroom for expert interviews on current events and past issues. Schwartz's Law, where you can be the jury.
Hello, I'm Michael Schwartz. Welcome to Schwartz's Law. One of the most interesting cases that we've had in the law in recent times is the case involving Tamara Green, a young lady who was murdered almost 8 years ago now. Next month will make 8 years since she was murdered. And representing her family is a lawyer who's been, I think, for the last 6 years trying to get to the bottom of this and trying to find out exactly what happened and why things did or didn't happen and things along those lines. We're going to talk to him. He's Norman Yatooma, a well-known lawyer here in the city of Detroit. And Mr. Yatooma, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. How are you?
As I indicated, this is a case that's really provoked a lot of newsworthiness. A lot of people know about it. I think that a lot of people have seen you on TV. And now I know that you're in federal district court. You've had some testimony given by Kwame Kilpatrick, by Ella Bully Cummings, and a few other people. Let me ask you, you got into this case in or about 2005, is that right?
Actually, the case was filed in November of 2005. My firm didn't get involved for about 3 years thereafter.
Okay, so you came in 2008?
Yes.
Okay. Well, when it got filed, what was the basic claim that they were making in filing the case?
The basic claim was then and is now a denial of access claim. Simply said, my clients have been denied their day in court, and they've been denied their day in court because the police were unable to conclude their investigation. Not because they couldn't find a suspect, but because the mayor and those reporting to him wouldn't permit them to find a suspect.
All right, well, let me ask you this. We know, and this is something which is well known, in the city of Detroit, if somebody is killed and it's a homicide, the chances are less than 1 in 3 that the person who perpetrated the crime is going to get caught. 70% of all homicides are not solved in Detroit. This was one of them. And I know that it's obviously a great concern to the family, but there have been a lot of aspects to this case that have been out there, and obviously one of them has to do with a party that was claimed to have occurred in or about, I guess, November of 2002 at the Manoogian Mansion. And so far, I'm not aware of any person who actually attended the party who said, oh, I was at that party and all these things happened, except for, I think, a couple of people that you had who their credibility is somewhat questionable because of certain factors that were brought out. But what can you tell us about that?
Well, you said a lot of things there, Michael, so let me try and parse those if I can. First, you're right. There are a lot of unsolved murders in the city of Detroit, and that's certainly lost on no one, least of all me. My father is one of those unsolved murders in Detroit. So I understand all too well that most homicides go unsolved in the city. What separates Tamara Green's homicide investigation from my father's investigation and from the other 70% of the investigations to which you refer is that Kwame Kilpatrick wasn't involved in obstructing those other investigations.
Well, that's a conclusion that you draw, and of course the other side says, no, he didn't obstruct. So that's an issue which I guess is an issue of fact, as we would call it in the law. What evidence do you have that he actually knew and caused this to occur?
Well, it is an issue of fact, of course, to be determined, and so far we're well on our way to doing that. Of course, the case has survived many years and many motions to this point. But look at Alvin Bowman, for instance, who is an officer in charge of the homicide unit investigating the Tamara Green homicide, who was transferred and sued for effectively losing his job because and only because of his role in the Tamara Green homicide. Now, Al Bowman's already been vindicated at trial. He's already won his case. So that issue is no longer a conclusion being drawn by me. It's a conclusion drawn by a jury. It's well settled now. Gary Brown lost his job. And in his own words, even now while being the #2 man in the city council, in his own words, in his deposition, he said he was terminated because he lost, he said he lost his job because his investigation was going to reveal either the Christine Beatty, Kwame Kilpatrick affair or the Manoogian Mansion Party. And of course, there have been many allegations here, as you mentioned already, regarding Tamara Green's role at the
Well,
Manoogian
we know,
Mansion
for
Party.
example, the situation with Beatty and Kilpatrick has already been adjudicated. That's done. We know that Kilpatrick had literally tens of thousands of text messages that he and Beatty shared. And I, of course, represented him at some point later on. And it was always an amazement to me how you could have tens of thousands of text messages and do anything else in your life, because that's unbelievable. I mean, you'd be text messaging virtually all. I don't know. I don't even know how you can get up in the morning if all you're doing is text messaging, because you'd have to do that to have tens of thousands. But let's assume that there was a party, okay? Let's assume that at this party were a number of people, some of whom are well known to the public. Let's assume that the reason for the party had to do with some impending, let's say, good event that was going to occur to somebody. Maybe they were going to get married or something was going to happen. Now you've got a party, and it's alleged that at this party that Tamara Green was doing dancing. And it's also alleged at the party, from what I've read, that Kwame Kilpatrick's wife, Carlita Kilpatrick, struck Tamara Green with some kind of a blunt instrument. And let's assume that all that happened, okay? Now, 6 months later, Tamara Green is shot, sitting next to a boyfriend who some people say is a known drug dealer. And the question is, how do you connect this party in November of 2002 with the murder that occurred in April of 2003? That's something that we're going to explore as soon as we come back from these words. Okay, we're back on WADL, Schwartz's Law, with Norman Yatooma, and we're talking about this party that is the question of some debate, but assuming that the party actually occurred, how do you connect that party with the murder?
Well, first and foremost, I don't need to connect the party with the murder. I'm not, of course, a criminal prosecutor, and I'm not here or charged or even permitted, frankly, to prove this murder. That's not my responsibility. What my responsibility is to prove the murder investigation was covered up. And certainly if Tammy Green danced for the mayor in his home and was assaulted by his wife, that would certainly be a motivation for the mayor to cover up this murder investigation. Now, there are a whole host of reasons.
Why would it be? Assuming, but forget about the murder.
Michael, come on, now,
there's just an assault. Let me put it like this. Assuming arguendo that there was an assault, assuming arguendo that at this party were a number of law enforcement officers who actually saw this alleged assault, who could then have taken action to do something, how do you then get a cover-up of a murder investigation? What, if anything, does this murder victim have to do? I mean, she could have filed a police report and said I was assaulted.
She did.
And she did. Okay.
She did, and not one but two members of the police department have testified to that fact, that she filed a police report saying she was assaulted. And many other members of City of Detroit personnel have said that they talked to Tammy Green after she was assaulted, or witnessed Tammy Green being taken to hospital after she was assaulted, or saw members of the mayor's EPU at the hospital after she was assaulted, or saw the actual physical police report that later disappeared after she was assaulted. And the question as to why Kwame Kilpatrick would cover a murder investigation.
Well, you're assuming
hang on a moment.
Yes.
Let me answer the question now. If she had, in fact, danced at this party, been assaulted by the mayor's wife, and then he lied about it, therefore obstructing justice, you're asking now why he might cover up the murder investigation that followed? Well, that's about as obvious as what color suit you're wearing. He would cover up the murder investigation because if that murder and that victim was linked to his home, he would go down for obstruction of justice, even if he had nothing at all to do with the murder. Well, now, again, it's one of many motivations for covering up this murder investigation, but what we know, Michael, is that he did cover it up. Well, and don't have to believe me. Take Al Bowman's word for it. Well, take his jury's word for it, because he's already filed his suit. He's already won his suit for adverse employment results because of his investigation into the Tamara Green homicide.
But you and I know that his lawsuit and his verdict is not at all binding upon Kwame Kilpatrick's.
Binding, no, but persuasive, absolutely.
I don't even know if it's persuasive.
This is a Detroit police officer who lost his job, filed a lawsuit, and received the verdict because of his role in the investigation of Tamara Green's murder.
I know, but the fact is he did an investigation. The fact is also, for example, there's a claim that Kwame Kilpatrick emailed something, that these emails were all destroyed. When were the emails destroyed, by the way?
Well, according to their own lawyer, they were destroyed in February of 2008.
2008?
2008, when we filed our motion to preserve evidence. When we filed our motion to preserve evidence, their lawyer says that all of their emails were deleted and purged.
On that day, with knowledge that there was an order?
Well, ask their lawyer.
Well,
Maybe he should be your next guest, but I'm telling you,
he may be my next guest.
He says in February 2008, not once but twice, he says they deleted and purged their emails. Now, you tell me why it is that all of the mayor's and the chief of staff's emails are purged in the very month that we file our motion to preserve evidence.
Well, the first question I have is if that was purged then, because I read other things, and so that's why I'm asking these questions.
But what you should be reading is the court transcript where he says that he deleted and purged their emails. Or you can read the filed pleading where he says they deleted and purged their emails in February of 2008. This is their lawyer. He's unequivocal on this issue.
And the judge issued his order when?
The judge issued his order on February 7. We filed our motion on February 1. And as the court issues,
what date was the emails purged?
And as the court says in its order, the order only serves the salutary purpose of advising parties of that which they should already know, which is you simply can't destroy evidence. And at a minimum, they run notice of the fact they couldn't destroy evidence in November of 2005 when this lawsuit was filed. And importantly, and contrary to the arguments of the city of Detroit, when they say, well, they didn't know to save emails from 2002 and 2003 because the lawsuit wasn't filed until 2005. Whether they knew it or not doesn't matter, because what we know now for this testimony is they did save their emails. Kwame Kilpatrick, Ella Bully Cummings, and Ruth Carter have all already testified that they did not delete all the emails from their inbox, that they had some, in Ella Bully Cummings' case, had emails actually saved in subfolders. And in every instance, they said we never, ever deleted emails from our sent box. Well, now their IT personnel, not mine, their IT personnel has said the system only deleted the trash folder.
Well, let me ask you this. Was there a retention policy? I'm trying to get through.
I know you are, but you're asking a question, so I need to put an answer on that, okay? If they never deleted their inbox and they never deleted their sent box, they should be there. The email should be there. And during this period of time, 0 emails have been produced. Not some, not many, 0.
Is there anybody else who can delete other than the person who's got that particular terminal?
Not according to the users. The users say that they had authority over their emails, that they left the emails intact. Their lawyer says they destroyed them in February of 2008. Well, that is the spoliation issue.
Who's the they that destroyed them?
The city. I don't know who the they is.
Well, that's
I don't need to know who they is. Their lawyer made the representation. It's not my allegation. It's his admission.
No, but what I'm asking you is, the they is not necessarily the individuals who we're talking about. It
doesn't need to be. The city of Detroit is the defendant.
The question that I'm asking is whether or not they, the individuals, did it. The only reason I'm asking this is as follows. It doesn't matter if it's the individuals that did it. The individuals aren't at play here. The city of Detroit is defendant. That's a separate issue that I didn't get into at the moment. The only reason I'm doing this is whether or not...
The lawyer for the city of Detroit says that they deleted and purged their emails in February 2008. The users, Kwame Kilpatrick, Ella Bully Cummings, and Ruth Carter, said that they had emails remaining in their sent box, in their inbox, and in some instances in subfolders, which means those emails were there. They were ordered by the court to be produced. They were not produced because they had been destroyed. Their own lawyer says they were destroyed in February 2008.
Right.
That is destruction of evidence. Did
the city have a retention policy with regard to emails? And what was that retention policy?
That they retain emails.
Was there a written document that said that?
There was a document that said that, and every one of these witnesses testified they were blissfully unaware of it.
And how long did they retain emails for?
Doesn't say.
Well,
it says that it has to be done in accordance with an approved schedule, and they had no schedule.
So therefore what you're saying is they had a policy that said you retain emails, but it didn't say for how long.
What I'm saying is they had a policy to retain emails, and unless they have a schedule approved by the State Administrative Board, They have to retain those public records indefinitely.
All right,
And
we'll
the
get back
city
to that.
has
I'm
a
sorry,
policy
we have
that
to.
says so, and they did not retain it in violation of their own policy.
I have to take a break right now because we have a few words, and we will be back with Norman Yatooma after these words. We're back with Norman Yatooma here on Schwartz's Law on WADL, and we're talking about these emails that were destroyed, apparently in February 2008.
Not apparently, according to the confessions of their own lawyer.
That's fine. And do we know why it was they were destroyed? And I know you're going to say you don't have to show why, but all I want to know is, do you know whether it was done deliberately or whether it was done accidentally?
How do you accidentally delete and purge all of the mayor's and chief of staff's emails in the wake of a motion to preserve all of those emails?
Well, I don't know, but the fact is...
Well, I don't know either, Michael, and I can't imagine
all
a
I'm
straight-faced
asking
reason
is,
why.
the reason I'm asking is we can all presume certain things, but all I want to know is whether or not we have an actual factual statement other than presumptions, because you're presuming that this
I'm
was
presuming
unintentional.
nothing. I'm presuming nothing at all. You're presuming. What I am saying...
No, I'm presuming nothing. I'm actually saying...
I'm saying
willing
what
to
John
accept...
Shapka said. He's the city lawyer. He said upon the resignations of Christine and Kwame, all the emails were destroyed. Obviously, we know Kwame didn't resign in February. Christine Beatty did. She resigned on February 8th. We filed our motion to preserve emails on February 1st. The court issued a show cause order on February 7th. Ergo, I need presume nothing at all. I know the date I filed my motion, I know the date the court issued its order, and I know the date Christine Beatty resigned, and I know, don't need to argue, I know because their lawyer has said that they destroyed all of the emails upon the resignation of Christine Beatty and Kwame Kilpatrick. What I also know, because Judge Rosen said it, so I needn't presume it, is that the order is really a formality. Again, it's only done for the salutary purpose of advising people what they should already know, which is you can't destroy evidence. So now the only issue is, was there evidence there to be destroyed? And now I know there was evidence there to be destroyed. So I needn't presume it, I know it, and I know it because Kwame Kilpatrick testified to it, Ruth Carter testified to it, and Ella Bully Cummings testified to it. They said, oh no, Mr. Yatooma, we would never, ever, ever delete the emails from our sent folder. Now, their IT personnel, not mine, theirs. So I needn't presume it. He testified to it. He said our system only deletes the trash folder, not the sent folder, not the inbox, not the subfolders. All three of them, Carter, Kwame, and Ella Bully Cummings, said they had all of their emails still in their sent folder and some of their emails still in inbox, and for one of them, in subfolders too. So we know the emails existed. We know they weren't produced. That 9-month period produced 0 emails, none. We know they existed. We know they weren't produced. We know the users said they were there when they left. And we know that their lawyer said they were destroyed after we filed our motion.
Well, let me ask
There's
you this
nothing
question.
left to be presumed.
Let me ask you this question, because I know that there is no such thing as total erasing of hard drives.
How do you know this?
Well, because it's happened in a number of cases.
Well, but you're not the IT expert.
No, no,
so
but
their
the point,
IT guy says they're gone.
But Norman, the bottom line is this. He says they're not there. Has somebody attempted to get the hard drives and extract from the hard drives everything that's on there?
We have. We have a motion pending right now before Magistrate
So you haven't
Whalen.
gotten it yet?
We have a motion pending right now before Magistrate Whalen to permit our own expert to go in and examine their hard drives. But their personnel has already said they're gone.
I know, but the fact is
that
we know that these things
exist. It's an admission
exist.
of a party.
Wait, hold
the
it.
city
I
personnel
understand that.
said they're gone.
I just want to know factually. I'm not going to get into the technical legal stuff because our viewers just want to know the facts. And the facts are...
I've given you the facts.
That you're going to... that you are seeking to get the hard drive so that you can see whether or not there's anything on the hard drive that you can extract that shows that it had been erased, allegedly.
Yes, we
But
are.
that... All right, now...
There's a few wrinkles there, though.
What's the wrinkle?
They've lost many of the hard drives. Oops.
Well, you'll have to look and see what there is and find out what all hard drives, do they have some kind of way that
They've lost some.
How do you know they've lost them?
Because they've said so.
Which ones have they lost? Do you know?
John Shapka, again, the city lawyer, said that all of their hard drives and computers were trashed. His words, not mine, not my presumption, his confession. Now, we've since found out that some, not all, of those computers have not been trashed. Some have been lost, some have been found. We've asked the judge to allow us to go in and examine whatever they haven't otherwise yet destroyed.
All right, so you're going to take a look at that. Hopefully,
if we can.
Hopefully the magistrate judge is going to give you authority to get that. You're going to look at that. You're going to see if there's something on those hard drives, and you're going to say, well, there may be other hard drives that we don't have because they've been discarded or in some way preventing us from looking at it. And at that point, you'll know if there's anything on there that's got any value to your case, to determine anything that may or may not actually pertain to your investigation of the failure of the police to be able to determine who it is who murdered.
This wasn't a failure of the police for investigating. No one's suing the police for being apathetic. We're suing the city and the mayor because they did not allow the police to do their job. And as to whether these emails will reveal information about the Tamara Green homicide, we'll never know because they've been destroyed.
Let me ask you
and
this.
that's the magic of spoliation. See,
No,
the party can't say it doesn't matter that we destroyed the emails because if you'd viewed them, you'd find out they were totally benign. Well, that's why you're not allowed to destroy evidence, because we shouldn't be required to take the word of convicted perjurers to know whether, in fact, the emails they wrongfully destroyed would have contained helpful information.
I understand, but what would happen, for example, if all the stuff were there, everything was there, all the records were there, and you still wouldn't be able to find out who it was who killed Tamara Green?
Well, no one's suggesting that these emails are going to reveal the murderer. They're also not going to tell us whether Santa Claus is real, Michael. I don't even understand your question. These emails go to whether there was a cover-up of the murder investigation, not whether Kwame Kilpatrick was the murderer. That's not what's being explored in these emails. And again, we may never know what they're going to say because the defendants, not the plaintiffs, the defendants have already told us the emails are destroyed. So we can all opine until we're blue in the face as to what they would say. Certainly I would have different opinions about that than with the city lawyers. But the bottom line is it doesn't matter because they destroyed it.
What I'm saying is you may be right that there was a cover-up. You may be right that all of these things happened because they didn't want certain things to come out. What I'm just looking at is what facts you have other than your presumptions that, well, this must have happened because this particular police officer won a case for wrongful discharge and a few other things happened. But the issue was whether the person was wrongfully discharged in his case, not whether or not Kwame Kilpatrick covered up anything. And so as a result, I understand that you've got presumptions, and I understand that you've got a case that you're trying to prove. I'm just looking to see what facts you have other than all these presumptions that people are covering up, and that's really what this is about.
Michael, what it sounds like it's about is that you're on the city's payroll. Because
you should know better, Norman. To make a claim like that, I could say that you're just doing this for your own publicity, to try to go out and...
You could say that.
But we're not going to say either one because we're out of time right now, and we have to go. Unfortunately, we only have half an hour. I'd love to do more.
What's really unfortunate is that you don't need me to be here to make speeches. If you want to ask a question, then you should wait for an answer.
Norman, I would love to, but the time is up because one thing both of us are subject to is the clock. The clock tells me, unfortunately, time has run out. And I want to thank you for coming down, and I'd like to thank all of you viewers for watching, and I look forward to seeing you next week on Schwartz's Law.
If you have